All right, top of the hour. Welcome everybody, LearnFest Day 3, woohoo! Hopefully everyone's having a fabulous July. I know, probably like me, I can't believe it's already July, um, but excited. So we have a big day today with LearnFest. We're going to start up with Apple iWorks and talk about Notability, Nearpod, and Adobe Spark, all incredible tools. I'm excited to dig in with some of our bulb heads and help them or allow them to share some of their knowledge with us. We're excited. Please ask us questions along the way. You can use the chat window or the Q&A to ask us any questions. And then don't forget to follow us on social media at BulbApp, and then the hashtag BulbAppChat. We'll put that in the chat window as well. It's on the screen. So you can follow that hashtag BulbAppChat and let us know, what are you learning? What is exciting that you've heard throughout LearnFest? What do you want to try in your classrooms next year? So to kick us off, I want to introduce Amanda Mask. Amanda is the digital learning coach in Coppell ISD in Texas. She is fabulous, and I can't wait to have her talk about iWorks and Notability. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, Amanda, and hand it over to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Bria. All the windows. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for day 3. I'm super excited to be kicking us off this morning and talking a little bit about iWork and really diving in and showing the ways that iWork can be used with Bulb to really highlight what either you as an educator are creating or really the amazing things that our learners can create in iWork. So for those of you that are new, well, here's the overview. So we're going to take some time to just look at what iWork is, talk about some of the ways it can be used in the classroom, and then again, really highlighting iWork and Bulb, why you would use those two in conjunction together and the power of it, and then just the how to actually make that happen. And then at the end, if you have any questions, we will take a few minutes just to answer any questions that you may have. So for those of you that are new to iWork, welcome, welcome. It's one of my favorite platforms for sure. iWork is Apple's native program, so it's going to include the app's Keynote, Numbers, and Pages. And when you're thinking about these apps, just to kind of give you a frame of reference if you are new to them, Keynote is similar to like a slide presentation app. Numbers is like your spreadsheets. And then Pages is your document and word processing application. So we will dive a little bit deeper into each of those, but this will just kind of give you a background for each of these as I'm talking about them. One thing I really love about iWork is the ability to work across your different devices. So these applications are available on the iPad, on your MacBook, and also on your iPhone. And if you're signed into the same Apple ID, simultaneously you can work on all these devices. So oftentimes I love to start designing from my MacBook, but then when I really want to bring in some of those creative elements and I want to sketch with my Apple Pencil, it's easy when I'm logged into that same Apple ID to pick up my iPad, sketch, and add some of those creative elements. Something else that's really great about these platforms is how easy it is to create quality, professional looking documents or infographics within these applications. And here in a minute, I'm going to hop into one of the apps and show you from the iPad how easy it is. I love that there are just a few buttons. So when we're thinking especially about our littles and creating, and especially right now when we are facing distance learning and also educating face-to-face potentially, and just all the unknowns wrapped up in this time, I love how easy it is, the simplicity and use. In the screenshot here, you can see just the few buttons that are in there and how self-explanatory it is, that plus sign to add content, and then the format paintbrush to adjust any content that you've added to your document. And something that is also great about these, I keep saying it's great, I really love iWorks, But something else that's really neat is how easy it is to transfer the skills from one application to the other. You will notice that all of them look the same as far as the buttons that are available to push. And here in just a minute, I am going to show you a document and really talk about when and why you would choose to use one of the programs over the other. So if I haven't already told you enough reasons why I love it, I'm going to give you just a couple more, going back to really thinking about distance learning. There are so many features that are available and built in within these iWorks app that allow us to make content accessible to all of our learners. We're going to look at some audio recording features and different things that we can include in these programs, especially if you're designing something for your educator or for your learners to interact with, and how you can use things like audio recordings so that every learner, even if they're a progressing reader, they are still able to understand the instructions and interact with the content, especially if they are learning at home while maybe parents are also juggling work and supporting other children as well. Hop to the next slide. Maybe. There we go. So this is the document that I mentioned just a moment ago. I partnered with a colleague, Sam Nill, to create this. We were getting lots of questions about when you might use Keynote, numbers, or pages, and really if one was better than the other. And my answer to that is they're all great, but it's really going to depend on your end goal. If you want access to this document, you can find it, oh, I have a typo. You can find it at bit.ly/learninteractive. And in that folder, you'll find this document as well as some other resources that I'll talk about here in just a minute. But as you're thinking about when is the best time to use each of these, I really love to focus on that export section of this chart. If you as an educator want to provide your learners with a movie, then it's really easy to look at this chart and see that the only app that will export as a movie is Keynote. So then that's probably my best bet based on my goal for that activity or the lesson. And same thing, oftentimes we have kids ask us, hey, I really want to create a movie, or hey, I really want to create a book. Which app is best for me? So it's really easy to be able to look at this document and determine which route is best for our learners as they're creating, but also for us as educators when we're creating documents and content for our kids to interact with. Also on this document at the very top, you will notice the iPad icon and the MacBook icon. This will show you the differences in the iPad and the MacBook. There are a few, not a ton, but that is just also helpful to keep in mind when you are designing. So next, just kind of thinking about iWork in the classroom. I have to brag on our educators, and I know you all can probably brag on your educators as well. I feel like together as educators, we have really come together and seen some amazing things being created and also seen very innovative uses of different platforms and technologies during this time of distance learning. One thing that we have seen our educators using a lot as of late is interactive learning journals. And interactive learning journals are really just a learning experience that is housed in a singular place. And when I say learning experience, it doesn't have to be an entire unit or project. Sometimes our educators do like to design learning journals so that the entire unit or a project is housed in that one place, but it could also be a singular experience as well. And really, we like to think about the way that this differs from a workbook, and really, again, thinking about those interactive elements that you can add in to all these various platforms. The audio recordings, the fact that our kids can not only make meaning by typing or adding an audio recording or adding photos. There are just so many possibilities when you're thinking about this, and it really hits that learner voice and choice when we give them the opportunity to share their learning in the way that makes the most sense for them. So we've seen lots of different learning journals. And actually, real quick, before I talk about the others, I am going to try to stop sharing here and start sharing on my iPad. Let's see how successful I am.
It's awesome, Amanda. And that checklist, I put it in the chat. I know we'll send it out for resources and everything afterwards too, but what a great guide to kind of help know the different ways and the different applications and what might make sense. So that's an awesome resource you guys put together.
Thank you. Yeah, it definitely came out of a place of need when we were getting those questions. And honestly, at first, I didn't have the answer. So it really forced us to dive in and explore and see the differences. So definitely something I keep in my back pocket. And we are working on updating regularly since Apple just is releasing all sorts of new updates. I'm going to hop into Pages first. So this is that same screenshot that you saw on the presentation. I just wanted to show how easy it is. Turn on my accessibility so you can see where I'm pointing. Fun little tip if you're using the iPad, I love to use the assistive touch to be able to use it as a pointer when you're presenting virtually. But really on the iPad, the main buttons that you have to use, it's easy to not get lost since there aren't so many buttons, but it's pretty easy to explain to kids. That plus sign is to add any of your content that you want to add into the app. And then your paintbrush is what you're going to use to customize things. So you just select anything. I think I have a bunch of stuff that's locked right now, but you select it, click that format paintbrush, and then you can customize it. So for example, our kiddos, if they want to reflect using audio, they can press that record audio button, and it's so nice that you can add a recording directly within Pages. Easy to do. We'll see if it'll work. It probably won't since I'm also on Zoom, but it's super easy to push that record button. You can trim and edit and then just press the insert button and you'll have an audio recording added into your document. Same thing when you're thinking about from an educator perspective, you can design using media placeholders, and that makes it really easy for our kids to know that you're asking them to add content in a specific spot. So they just press this plus sign. It'll automatically pull up all of their photos. Sure, I'll throw in the news app. And then they can even grab their Apple Pencil and begin drawing directly on the document. So it's something that's just super easy for our kids to do. And I think it's easy to see how creative our kids can be with the tools that are available. If you don't have access to an Apple Pencil, no worries. You can push that plus sign and select drawing and still use those same drawing features. I have seen some amazing artwork by some of our younger learners just using their finger. It's been absolutely incredible. Sorry, guys. So that's just a little bit of Pages, and really what you see in Pages is very similar to what you see in Numbers and Keynote, with a few differences that you can see from that checklist that I shared. The advantages in Numbers is that you can make some amazing charts and graphs and other really mathy things that I'm not 100% sure about, but I know people that can give you a lot of information about it. But we have seen Numbers being used a lot too from the educator's perspective to create workflows, and these are really awesome, again, in distance learning when you're thinking about the process of learning and walking our learners and chunking it step by step. So you can see in this screenshot here the different tabs across the top of the document and how it's easy to see how much you have left in the project, and then also to be able to just click on each tab and work a chunk at a time. Something that is really neat if you are in a face-to-face environment with kiddos is being able to use Apple Classroom. You'll notice that these have little emojis, and now you can actually change the background color in Numbers. So with Apple Classroom, it allows you to view learner screens, which can be really great to just quickly check in. Maybe you're in a small group working with a group of kids, But if you have different colors on each page in your numbers workflow, it's really easy to pull that screen up and see what color page your kids are on and just be able to quickly check the progress and maybe see specific learners that you need to check in with or see if they need any additional support. And then Keynote is really great for creating interactive videos. I have a little GIF over here. That's something else that's fun about Keynote, going back to that exporting and when to use one app over the other. Keynote actually can export as a movie or as a GIF. So it's really fun to create little interactive GIFs that you can share with your learners. We've seen a lot of our educators insert these into bold pages. And then we've also seen them, if you do use an LMS, using it with the folder, with the content for the LMS, just as a quick reminder of the content that can be found in that folder. So that was a lot about educators using iWork, but our kids can use iWork too. And that's one of my favorite parts about it is the creation aspect, the learner choice. We've seen, we've had classes use Pages to create books that have actually been published in the bookstore that others can download and have been downloaded across the world, which has been really cool. We have kids that have used Keynote to make different tutorial videos. They add shapes and you can add animations to them. So something that really I feel like sets these apart, something that sets these apart is the ability to, sorry, I lost my chat window. Something that sets these apps apart is the ability to take it further than just the slideshow or just the document. I really feel like it gives you the power to take it to the next step to publish something that can be shared with others and also made into original pieces of work. Real quick, I didn't get to the iWork and Bold, which is the most important part. And again, just bragging on our educators during distance learning, we've seen tons and tons of Apple products and platforms being used. But what I really love is our educators have been encouraging our learners then to put that into Bold with a reflection. So thinking about those workflows or those learning journals, those are great for documenting the process and that in the moment learning. But really the power is when they're uploading those into Bold and they're really reflecting on the overall experience and making meaning and connecting all the dots and doing their reflecting within Bold. So just real quick, I'm going to show you all your lovely faces. I think you guys should be able to see Bold now. But within Bold, you can share a link. And again, the way in which you put content into Bold is going to be dependent on the way that that exports. If you were in Keynote and you exported as a movie, it's easy to insert a movie directly into your Bold page. You would just select video. If you were in one of the others and had an image, you export it as an image, you could add it as an image. But one thing I do want to mention, if you're on a consumer Apple ID, you can actually grab the link from one of your documents. I have one here I'm going to pull. And you can paste that link directly into Bold. And it embeds really nicely. But do keep in mind that if you are on a managed Apple ID, you do have some restrictions in regards to sharing and can only share within your district. So it does kind of change that. So to get around that, when I am creating on my Apple ID, I do download the file and then upload either that pages number, pages file, or numbers file directly into Bold. I'm going to go ahead and start questions while this is loading, and then I'll hop back to the screen to show you how you can add those links.
Yeah, that's great, Amanda. And if anyone has any questions, please chat or use the Q&A. I love how you were talking about the different ways that you can enable that student choice and voice in the creation tools for the Apple iWorks, and then be able to take those creations and put them into Bulb and connect them with the reflections so that that portfolio is capturing reflections and tracking that growth over time, which is really exciting. And I think one of the things that we're passionate about at Bulb is this idea that we want kids exploring and creating in lots of different applications, because it helps build their ability to understand technology and see how ideas can be expressed, and having that opportunity to use other applications, I think, is so important for kids. And even though there's some similarities in terms of some of the things, like you can record audio in Bulb, right? And you can put pictures like you could in a document, giving students the opportunity to try different things and present in different applications, and then be able to gather those all back in your portfolio, I think is so powerful. So I love that that you shared that with us, Amanda. That was awesome. Does anybody have any questions or anything that you would want Amanda to dig a little bit deeper in, or anything that you're wondering about?
They're thinking about questions. I will share this. I was able to get it to stop spinning. But you can go to any of those applications and get the link to share. And when you put it into Bulb, I just use that URL button to embed it in Bulb. Look how beautifully that embeds in Bulb. And then learners can add a reflection, make meaning, add images. Like I mentioned with the workflows, we see this a lot in science. And so maybe they have pictures to add from an experiment that they did that they can embed in a carousel directly within Bulb.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I love, if you guys were on our sessions 1 or day 1 or day 2, we talked a lot about Google Docs on day 1 and the Microsoft products on day 2, and how all of those different platforms, a lot of us have access to multiple different platforms, of being able to bring that in. And I know that you guys are a one-to-one iPad district, so your students are using the iPad. So thank you for showing that to us. And for those of you that might be newer to Bulb, Bulb works great from a web browser from an iPad. So you can, open up Safari, and it is responsive and works great on an iPad or an iPhone. And we also have an iOS app. So if you haven't downloaded our iOS app, I encourage you to do so. It's a really cool experience, and there's some great tools, including our drawing and annotation and recording tool that is specifically in our iOS app. So I think so. Without any other questions, that was awesome, Amanda. I actually am super inspired about the keynote and doing some things about making like tutorial videos and stuff. And so I want to go try out and learn that. My last question before we wrap up is, there's a lot of different things that you can do within iWorks. Is there a lot of, what's your recommendation for introducing this to students? Like, should they do a tutorial? What's the best way to kind of make sure that they feel comfortable? Do they just kind of go and do it on their own? What's your been experience with your students?
Great question. We switch my speaker real fast. So when we are introducing iWorks to our kids, I really love to just pull up the application, have them pull up the application and show them how easy it is, show them those couple buttons. I feel like for the most part, if our learners know that plus sign is where they go to add stuff and that paintbrush is where they go to customize stuff, it makes it really easy. And just giving them the time and the space. Oftentimes when we do design, when kids aren't just designing from a blank document or a template themselves, and the educator is providing a template for them, we love to give them space at the very beginning before we even dive into the content to, it's great for like a cover page, but just give them the space to like customize, to practice, to learn that plus sign and the paintbrush and have some experience in it. And our educators are really great about providing that opportunity for our kids. Oftentimes, if it's just 15 minutes to play around and explore. It makes it so much easier once you actually dive in and start interacting with the content. We do have tons of different tutorial videos that we have created, some in Keynote and some in Apple Clips, which is another favorite of ours, to walk them through the specifics of something if they feel stuck. Because we do have those kids sometimes that are afraid to just push the buttons and explore. So we do make those available to our educators and kids as well.
Yeah, that's really, really helpful. And Priscilla had written too, once they learn it in kinder, they're very comfortable with Apple apps by first, and they even love to teach new students. Which I love that in terms of, I think you guys do that really well in Coppell, of like building skills and introducing them to a lot of different technologies so that it builds along the way. And I think that's great advice for just technology in general, whether you're teaching bulb and using bulb in kinder or earlier grades or any kinds of ed tech tools that you know, our younger students have great ability to interact with technology and get comfortable with it. And I love what Priscilla was saying about encouraging other students to teach each other, because I see that as a really successful model in a lot of our schools, whether it's a tech organization that's out there and the students volunteer and they go out, or it's just working with classmates, or it's fifth grade working with kindergarten, or I have some schools where we have our juniors that are teaching our freshmen. So it's a great way to encourage students and show and have them be confident and proud in the skills that they can then teach their other students in school, their peers. Alrighty, well, you have another topic for us. Oh wait, we might have one question. Hold on one second, Amanda.
Okay.
So the question is, can the iPencil be used directly in bulb? And you can use the iPencil in our drawing tool in our iOS app, but you, like what Amanda was showing in terms of drawing on the like pages document and stuff, that drawing is not available directly in bulb. So great question.